Drivetime Radio with New York Vinnie.
On this week's edition of Yo, Vinnie, what are you driving this week? What about the show?
Yo, Vinnie, what are you driving this week?
Have a little fun. It is a fun day here out at the...
You're listening to Drivetime Radio.
Remember, just plug in. I'm ready.
Yes, and it looks like we are ready. A very good Saturday morning to you. It is the beginning of the Memorial Day weekend. This is Drive Time Radio. I'm New York Vinnie, and for the next hour or so, we'll spend a little time talking about cars, trucks, cars, engines, batteries, all the stuff that goes along with cars. We'll be talking about it here on Drive Time Radio as we do every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock or thereabouts. We always say thereabouts because I'm a nitwit when it comes to getting this show on the air, okay? I'm going to flat out admit that right up front, that in getting the show on the air, I just, for whatever reason, can never seem to get everything right where it's supposed to be. And that makes me an idiot in that respect. I'm not an idiot in a lot of other things, but in that respect, I can't seem to ever put it together to get everything. Like today, we're having trouble with Instagram. So you may or may not be getting this show on Instagram. But as I say, the safest way to find this show is for every Saturday morning, just go to our YouTube channel. The QR code is right there. You just point your phone at it, you click it, and you will come up with the correct place to be. And if you go to our YouTube channel and you listen to us or hear us or watch us on the YouTube channel, please like us and subscribe to us. We need all the likes to subscribe. Well, I always need all the likes I can get. But, we need the likes and we need people to help us with the algorithm. I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure I know what the hell an algorithm is. But it seems like everybody wants one. You got to have one. You got to do it. So, there we go. Well, all right. Today we got a show for you. That's a show among shows, okay? I know that this was a week where we said goodbye to a couple of broadcasting icons in Stephen Colbert and CBS News. Last night, there was the end of CBS News. Goodbye. A century worth of broadcasting. Names like Robert Trout and Douglas Edwards and Walter Cronkite, and you just go down a list, and they're gone. They're erased. Boom, poof. And I'm talking about CBS Radio News now, of which I was always proud to have been a part of when I worked over at Cairo. It was always a thrill to have something that you did show up on the network. And it was really thrilling to me to have my brother or one of my relatives from New York or somebody I'd gone to school with or somebody call me up and say, you won't believe this. I was driving down Route 80 at 2 o'clock in the morning in my truck delivering stuff, because most of the people I know back east deliver stuff in a truck at that time. And I heard your voice coming on from Safeco Field or from this place or from that place or with President Carter. That was a thrill when we got a thing on with President Carter. I interviewed him down in Atlanta in 2000. And it was when Bill Clinton had gone into Somalia. Yeah, I think it was Clinton going into Somalia. Anyway, I got a piece of actuality from him, a piece of sound from him. And they used it on CBS News at the top of the hour. And I was jumping for joy, a kid from the street in Queens. And all of a sudden, I'm on CBS News. That's a pretty cool thing if you're living my life. So goodbye to them. And of course, Colbert, I think everybody said everything that needs to be said. This is the start of Memorial Day weekend. I will get on my soapbox quickly. Won't spend a lot of time on it, but it is Memorial Day weekend. So we don't say Happy Memorial Day. It's not a happy occasion, even though the advertising gods have changed your perception of it. Memorial Day is a solemn holiday where the people that gave their lives for this country in our military, in all the wars, are to be remembered, are to be honored. Veterans Day is for veterans. Armed Forces Day is for people that are still in the armed forces. This day is for all, but today is a very solemn day, or I should say Monday. The observation of Memorial Day is a very solemn day. It's a day where people who laid down their life, and good Lord, there's millions of them that laid down their life for this country so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy, so we can say the stupid crap that we say to each other on social media can be enjoyed. And so, please don't give me a happy Memorial Day. Try to remember what the holiday is about. Try to think a little bit about what the holiday is about and what it means to people, especially if you have a member of your family that has given the ultimate sacrifice. I know that there are some politicians who don't see it as really anything, that somebody joins the service and loses their life in defense of our country. But I personally will always honor those people and their families and anybody that has anything to do with them, because that is the right thing to do. And as as I draw closer to the end than I am to the beginning, I always think of Graz when I say that, because he always used to say we're closer to the weekend than we are to the last weekend or the start of the week or something like that. But as you draw closer to the end than you are to the beginning, you think about that kind of stuff, and you think about how your life was spent. And I just always like to think that I spent at least some time doing something to pay those people back, to live a life. And I know it's kind of hokey, but it's that Private Ryan thing. Tell me I was a good man. Tell me that I led a life that was worth them dying for. And how many of us today can look in the mirror and say that we've led a life that was worth those people giving up their lives for? Again, it's a complicated question, and it's not a place to get into it on a car show. but I just want think about it this weekend. So, what else we got going on here? A couple of things. Gas prices for this Memorial Day weekend. Actually, this was shocking when I went on the nationwide map. But believe it or not, and again, this is nationwide. This is not the state of Washington or Oregon or California, but nationwide gas prices for the first time in a long time that I can remember. The price of regular unleaded gasoline is down 2 cents from yesterday's average of $4.52 or $4.53 a gallon. It is, as of a couple of minutes ago, $4.51 a gallon. So it dropped a little bit. Right here in our little corner of heaven, state of Washington, you are $5.77 a gallon on average. So that's something that is probably about the highest in the nation, if not the highest. Prices in Oregon down 2.6 cents. And I say that so I can get my friend who will be coming up here in just a second excited about the price of gasoline. I always like to see if I can peek quickly at Canada. And their prices are down 3.3 cents after being up 16 cents over last month. So they're trying to figure out what's going on. It's always tougher with Canada because I have to look at this stuff and I have to figure out, I grew up with the imperial gallon, which was a lot easier to make. I don't know, maybe other people it's easier, but it's $1.83 a liter in Canada right now, which again is outrageous, but this is the situation we find ourselves in this Memorial Day weekend. Gas prices always go up on Memorial Day weekend anyway, so it's no shock that they've gone up. This is a time when, for several reasons, the price of gas, under the best of circumstances, still goes up a couple of cents. As a matter of fact, I can remember when I was a kid, my old man would send me out to tick the gas pump a couple of shots because we knew it was Memorial Day weekend, so he'd pop it up a penny or 2 cents, which at the time was a little bit of money. Go from 39.9 to 41.9 for the weekend, and then drop it because my dad's gas station was right by the Triborough Bridge. It was right as you were going into Manhattan, between LaGuardia Airport and Manhattan. People used to get off and buy gas there, and so he made himself summer camp money to get rid of us for the weekend. A few weekends during the year. He tried to make it up all in one shot there. But so the gas prices are down a little bit, and who knows what the situation is going to be. There are talks that now, yesterday we were going to go to war with Iran. We were going to start the war up again. This morning, the headline was, when I got up, that a settlement is imminent. So if you can figure it out, you're a better man than I am. There are ample supplies of fuel. Yeah, imagine that. Doesn't seem that there's any chance of us running out of fuel. People are paying the price, and the demand is being met, even though it's there's rumors here and this is happening there, and the ships are stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, and this is going on and that's going on. By the way, if I can recommend a good YouTube channel for you to watch, check out, if you get a chance, What's Up with Shipping. It's a guy out of New York that does he's a savant when it comes to all of this shipping stuff. He seems to know everything about it, and he seems to be right in what he knows. He's a professor at a college and a historian, and he's just got a really nice look at a fairly unbiased look at shipping and what's going on. And if you need to or want to know or are interested in knowing more about how this stuff is getting to this place and that place and this place, and what the chances are of it getting there, and what it takes for it to get there, usually mundane stuff, but now fascinating because you got to know this stuff. It's really good for to check it out. What's Going On with Shipping is his YouTube channel, and it really does a nice job of breaking down what's going on, and is able to put it in terms that people can understand. He's plugged into all of these different reports and everything. So if you get a chance, check his YouTube channel out. I think he does a great job. And he's not a sensationalist, so there's not like 1,000 blaring headlines on the front of his YouTube channel. He just kind of presents stuff as it as what I always think this thing should be, is just presenting stuff instead of the sensationalism. But hey, you know what? That's what happens when you have a free and open market. Everybody gets to do it their way. All right. It is Memorial Day weekend. What I like to do on Memorial Day weekend and Veterans Day weekend and different days that is pay in some way tribute to the different military vehicles. In the military vehicles, the transport vehicles are just as much of our Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. I don't know about the Space Force. I haven't seen a Space Force Jeep quite yet, but maybe there is one out there. Our next guest, if there is one, will be able to tell us about it because he knows a lot about Jeeps. When I wanted to do this, this piece, I was trying to get the person from the Military History Museum, but they had a bug out on me. They had some kind of family emergency. So the next person I went to was my friend Jeff. Jeff Zerschmied. I've known Jeff for a long time. We're friends, many, many years. We had laughs together in places that shouldn't be laughed about. Jeff is the guy that if you were at a funeral and you wanted to laugh, you would find Jeff and you would say, look at the guy, look at the way they got him set up in the coffin. It's not right. It's not right. Why put wheels on it? Anyway, Jeff is a writer and editor. He's been in every major automotive publication that I can think of, the New York Times. He's been in several magazines. I think his latest gig, which I think he retired not too long ago, was editing and writing for the Mercedes-Benz magazine, which, now correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but that was your last kind of full-time happening gig. After that, you just said, I'm going to become a boulevardier, a bon vivant, a man about an international man about town.
That is the plan, surely.
How are you, pal?
I am great. I am absolutely great. And hang on, let me move the screen over here. So now I'm looking at you and looking at the camera at the same time.
I had that problem for a year before I figured it out.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. I was editing the Mercedes-Benz magazine, The Star, and when that came to an end, turned to my wife and I said, "You know what? I think I just retired." And it's been great. I'm getting lots of done on my personal projects, among others, working on my Jeep CJ3A 1951.
Right.
And the history of Jeep, as you alluded to, is fascinating, and it is, in my mind, the Jeep, whether it's a CJ era or Wrangler, or, right on up to the 4xe today. That is one of the most, and I hate to use this word in general, but it applies. It's one of the most iconic American cars. If you ask somebody, what are the most American things you can possibly have, right? There's the 57 Chevy, there's the Model T, there's the Jeep, probably the F-150.
Yeah.
And the Jeep, has such a romantic story, really, because it started in 1940, and the Army said, we want to have a new lightweight car, truck thing that we can use anywhere. It's got to be four-wheel drive. It's got to be light enough and small enough that we can put it literally in a box and stack them up and ship them wherever. And it's got to be cheap. They gave them a weight limit of like 1,750 pounds, or actually 1,250 pounds, and 10 feet long exactly, so that they could put it in a pre-made box. And that's the way they delivered them. So what they did was they put out this RFP, what we now call a request for proposal, to like 1,500 different companies, and 3 responded. And that was American Bantam, which made little tiny cars anyway, Ford, and Willis Overland. And Ford and Willis Overland had been around since the beginning of the century. They were really well established, pretty big companies. But Bantam kind of had the edge on the design. And so what they did was they took this design that Bantam made, and they said, this is what we want, but we need to have more power. We need to have da-da-da-da-da. So they gave the contract to Willis, and Willis developed the Jeep as we saw it in World War II. And then they said, okay, listen, Willis, we need a lot of these. So we're going to take your design and we're going to have Ford make them as well. So Willis and Ford were both making Jeeps during the war.
What happened to Bantam?
Bantam made a few and they got paid. But a Bantam Jeep is really like a prototype. You're going to find those only in museums.
Right. Did they get paid well for that, or did they get kind of screwed in the process?
No, I don't know. But what they did get was a contract to make trailers. Those World War II military trailers that people are still using them today. You can find those on Facebook Marketplace, on Craigslist. And in fact, I would love to have one to pull behind my CJ. The heart of the thing that Willis brought to the party was the 2.2 liter, what they called a Go Devil. I love that name, Go Devil. It's a Go Devil.
Go Devil.
Which, on measured at the brochure, had 60 horsepower and about 60 pound-feet of torque. And then they use a Dana 3-speed manual transmission and a Dana transfer case and Dana front and rear axles on it. And the whole thing would come, as I said, in a box. And the wheels would be stacked up behind the driver's seats, and the steering wheel taken off, and the windshield folded down, and the whole thing packed into this box. And the idea was you could drop it out of an airplane and land it on parachute, and the GIs tear open the box, and then they reuse the wood for other stuff, but that's beside the point. And a couple of guys could assemble the Jeep in an hour and get it running. And it was astonishingly good engineering. It was like the model of Yankee ingenuity. And they made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these Jeeps. And if it was a Ford, it was called a GPW, General Purpose Willys. And if it was a Willys, it was called an MB. They had an MA model, and then the MB was the one that they mass produced. And at the end of the war, they just left them there. They left them all over Europe. They left them all over the Pacific, and they just packed up and went, right? Because it was going to cost more to bring all of these Jeeps home. And if you have hundreds of thousands of them, who cares?
Right.
Which is why, like, the Jeeps, if you go to the Goodwood Revival or any military vehicle gathering in England, man, the number of World War II Jeeps you see in immaculate condition is astonishing. There are just hundreds of them.
Were people just allowed to take them? I mean, so if you found one,
I don't know how it happened. I'm sure in the Pacific, if you found one with the keys in it, you know, it was yours.
It was yours, yeah.
Maybe they sold them in England. I don't know. Don't really know how that happened, but anyway, it got the Jeep mystique going, right? And that was the important thing. So 1945 rolls around, and the war ends, and Ford says, "Hey, this is great. We're going to go back to making, 1942 Fords for everybody." And Willis looked at it and said, "You know what? We kind of got a thing here." And so they made starting in 1945, they made what was called a CJ, or civilian Jeep. And it was, the first one was the CJ-2A, which is almost identical to the MB Jeep, except this is one of my favorite pieces of Jeep trivia. The average GI in World War II was 5'6", and so they made when you get an old Jeep, the seat is welded in place. There is no seat adjustment whatsoever. Right. And they sized everything so that a guy who was 5'6" could work this manual steering box. So it's got a huge steering wheel. Now I'm 6 feet tall, and I cannot drive a World War II Jeep. I get in there and I can't get my knee up to get on any of the pedals, because it's just like the steering wheel right here in my chest.
Yeah.
So when they built the CJ-2A, they moved the seat back 4 inches. And that's just enough. I mean, I'm still kind of, tight in there, but I can drive it. And so the seats are back 4 inches, and they put a little tailgate on it, like a pickup truck. And that's one of the ways that on site you can identify a World War II or after World War II military Jeep, is they don't have the little tailgate.
Right, it's just got that piece that goes across.
Just a flat metal piece across
the tire that bolts onto it. The thing that impressed me about it, when you talk about the GIs coming back, and the was that there was a sense of with GIs, especially with farmers, not people that lived in the cities, but people that lived on farms, people who were coming back to country and not urban settings, but places where a Jeep would there was a sense of reliability that was built into these GIs' minds. I mean, it was the best case of branding, in that anybody who was around a military base, anybody who served, anybody who was in the Pacific Islands, anybody who was in Europe knew that you could get in that thing and you turn the key, and 9 out of 9.5 times that thing was going to turn over and go, especially if people were shooting bullets at you. They were right. You could duck down and drive that thing like this to get out of situations. It was really had the mark of reliability in an era where cars weren't so reliable.
Yeah, the Go Devil is a great engine. It's a 4-cylinder flathead, which means that the cylinder head is just a flat piece of metal pretty much, and the valves are down in the block. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But they were reliable, and in fact, Willis Overland, it's Willis, not Willys, by the way. they put a power takeoff on the differential in the back so that you could run farm equipment like a baler or a conveyor belt or something like that off the back of your Jeep. And with the low range 4-wheel drive, you could actually use the Jeep as a tractor. And so they marketed it to the farmers as, you can get into it, run into town, buy groceries, whatever, come on back, because it's got a little pickup truck bed, little mini pickup truck bed. And then you can drop it into low range, pull a plow, pull a wagon, do whatever, run your equipment off the power takeoff. It was really kind of all purpose. The farmers never really bought a ton of them, though. It ended up being the guys who wanted to go up into the forest, the guys who wanted to, get off road, ended up buying them. And so Jeep went along, and they after the CJ3A, CJ2A, they made a CJ3A, which is what I own, a 1951 CJ3A. And then they went to the 3B. Now, the 3B is really an interesting engine. It's the one where you look at it and you think, wow, the hood's really high. Like they just added 4 inches to the hood height. And they did that because they changed the engine. They used the same engine block as the Go Devil, the flathead. And they put a new cylinder head on it that had the intake valves overhead, like we have in a modern engine. And the exhaust valves were still down in the block. And then you bolted a carburetor straight to that cylinder head, and they made a little bit more horsepower, and they called it the Hurricane engine, which incidentally, Jeep has brought back the Hurricane engine.
Right.
Now, the Hurricane name for the engine. And now it's a turbocharged straight 6, but then it was a very big deal. And the CJ3B was just made for a few years, kind of as a transition model. And then they came out with what the military called an M38A1. It was a little bit bigger in every dimension. It had, instead of dead flat fenders, it has curved front fenders that curve down at the front. And the civilian version was called the CJ5. And they brought that out in 1955, and then they made the CJ5 through, what was it, 1978 or something like that. It was a huge long run. CJ5 was, the most popular thing ever. And along the way, while they were making the CJ5, Willis Overland got taken over by Kaiser Automobiles. And that's incidentally the same Kaiser Corporation that runs the hospitals now.
Right. And built the ships and built
the Henry J. Kaiser cars and everything. So Kaiser buys Willis Overland and keeps making the CJ5. And then AMC buys Kaiser and keeps making the CJ5. And eventually AMC gets folded into Chrysler and, so on to Stellantis that we have now. But that Jeep CJ5, and again, with the M38A1, you don't have a tailgate. CJ5 has a tailgate. That's the easiest way to note what they are at a glance.
Well, it's interesting in those vehicles too, because really, when you go back and you think about it, it was the original sport utility vehicle.
Absolutely.
I mean, people will say, well, was it the Scout? Was it the Blazer? Was it this? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I had uncles and cousins and stuff that had farms in upstate New York and out in Jersey and stuff. And almost all of them had a surplus Jeep that they had on the farm that they would take. And those things would go through rivers, go through, they go hunting in them. A bad heater. And only one gauge, just that speedometer and a fuel, that thing sitting in the middle of the dashboard. But again, you got in it, you turned the key, and that little 4-cylinder engine kicked off, man. I mean, it just, it what? And if it didn't crank for some reason, you found a hill and you popped it down the hill, popped the clutch, and it was going. You didn't need much to get it started. One person pushing it and jumping in it, and the thing would go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even during World War II, they made a long wheelbase version, and they especially made a lot of these long wheelbase versions that sort of survive as the CJ8 Scrambler. but they made those specifically to be ambulances. You could stick a stretcher across the back of a Jeep, one, but you could stick several into a longer wheelbase thing with it, just stack them.
Right.
They were making all these different models, during the war and after. And the key to the reliability is the simplicity, right? You've got a 2.2 liter 4-cylinder engine. You're only asking it to make 60 horsepower and some comparable amount of torque. And so the compression is low. It'll run on crap gas. It's really quite amazing. And when you have an engine that isn't stressed, like my Jeep still has the original engine, the original Go Devil in it, the original T90 3-speed transmission, the original transfer case, and they leak a little bit, but they're still going. They'll run until the end of time. And the ignition is very simple. The carburetor is a little single throat carburetor from Carter. They're just bulletproof. I mean, to use apt.
They wish they were bulletproof. What? Why? It was interesting to me too in reading about the history is that the way GIs fell in love with these things. I mean, they were basically the only vehicle that every GI had a key for, or a way that they could start it, or they knew how to start them, or however they got their authorization. But so many GIs took their their military license test in these things.
Sure.
There was such a romance about these vehicles. Even after World War II was over, there were just still this real romance about them. That even when you saw them in movies and things like that, people just they loved this car. It was now they might not have gone out and bought one, but there was a love affair with these cars. People would stop and look at them on the street if they were sitting there.
And it still happens today. I mean, you see so many Jeeps that are, and even Stellantis is doing it, right? You can buy the Willys 1941 edition of a 2026 Wrangler, right? And it says Willys on the side. And I love pulling up next to those in my authentic Willys and waving at them. They love it. They absolutely go nuts. But the mystique never ended. Do you remember? And I'm sure you do because we're of an age. The movie, The Towering Inferno.
Yes, of course.
About the fire and the huge skyscraper. Well, Charlton Heston pulls up at just the right time, and and what is he driving? He's driving a Jeep Golden Eagle or something similar, right? It's all painted up and everything, and it's got the big tires and everything. And it's at a point in the movie where they need to get over some terrain. And he pulls up, and the guy says, whoever the hero of the movie is, says, I need to borrow your Jeep. And he says, this thing's got 8 gears in forward and 3 in reverse. If anybody's going to drive it, I am. And of course, it's Charlton Heston, so he does.
So he's got to drive, yeah.
Yeah, so the Jeep is kind of like this very important character in the movie because it can go and get things done the way that needs to happen for the drama. And I'm sure if you think about TV and movies, there's a million times, not just in World War II movies, but afterwards.
Oh yeah,
where the Jeep kind of makes an appearance as the thing that's going to save the day.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I mean, when you think about some of these newer series that take place out west, Yellowstone, and so on and so forth. When you watch these, there seems to be an old Army Jeep or an old Jeep somewhere in every episode. Hitch, the old guy who's been helping Pop out on the ranch for years, is driving the old Jeep that's, an actual, 1947 Jeep. or a 1945 Jeep that's a a surplus. And like you said with yours, they've lasted. They've stood the test of time.
Yeah, they absolutely have. And my CJ3A top speed on it is about 50 miles an hour, and that's really about as fast as you want to go on a four-wheel leaf spring, body on frame construction with no doors. At least as fast as I want to go. So I stay in the right lane, and if I'm on a 2-lane road, I pull over a lot to let people by. But everybody kind of gives you a little bit of grace to be going slow when you're in an antique like that.
So let me ask you this: How did Stellantis screw this up? I mean, they should have by rights the most popular selling car in America every year, but for some reason, and I don't know if it was because of the different changes that it went through with Chrysler, AMC, then Chrysler, then different ownership and so on and so forth. It seems like the Jeep has fallen back a bit in our psyche. Now, not the CJ5, not that original Jeep that we all think about. As a matter of fact, I think they may be as popular as ever, but it almost seems like they took this product and they tried to slap the name on so many different other kinds of vehicles that weren't really Jeeps, but a reasonable facsimile of, and they turned out to be unreasonable facsimiles of. But it seems that Stellantis has a plan to kind of turn that around a little bit, I think.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because the current Wrangler is still super popular. You can't. I think it ultimately got overtaken by the F-150 and things like that because the F-150 is bigger pickup truck, and Jeep has done pickup trucks on occasion, right? The Gladiator most recently, but the Comanches and the J100s and stuff like that.
I love the Comanches, man. I mean, I had a Comanche and I had a J. Oh, I love that thing. I mean, it would go through anything.
Like any automaker, they're trying to use some of their global platforms on things like the Cherokee and the Renegade, which was really a little Fiat. They've had some hits and they've had some whiffs. The XJ Cherokee, but from back in the 80s and early 90s, that's another Jeep that's absolutely bulletproof, and you can buy them for nothing.
Right.
You buy them for a couple of grand, and the 4-liter straight six that was in that XJ is a really reliable, easy engine to work on. And then, excuse me, my dog is demanding attention as she does.
The doggy wants love.
Doggy wants love, and she shall get it. But those are amazing and have great off-road potential, and you can buy them, cut them up, do whatever, raise them, lift them, and use them in whatever way you want. Others have come and gone, and been less popular. Your Patriot and your Compass and stuff. And the Compass was actually a pretty good rig.
Yeah, actually, that wasn't a bad. I drove halfway across the country in one, and it wasn't a horrible vehicle.
No. So like any automaker, they've had their hits and misses. Talking about the price of the XJ though makes me want to also note for our listeners that if you are listening to all this and thinking, oh man, I want to get a flat fender Jeep or an old CJ5 like Jeff has, they are available. You can get one in pretty good restored condition. One with nice paint, reliable mechanicals, and pretty well put together and ready to use for about $10,000. Which is not bad at all. For something that's going to be a fun car, or something you can, take hunting. They're really popular as hunting rigs.
Yeah. And they'll
you know,
go.
that
They'll
was,
go up the top of any mountain. I mean,
right. Yeah,
you take
absolutely.
that. Yeah, you take that up a trail. I mean, we do a thing called Mudfest every year,
Yeah.
which is, you know, it's a bit of a course, but this thing will go up and through just about anything. I mean, you could take it through a river. You could, you know, a reasonably.
Before I had my CJ3, I had an M38A1, ex-military CJ5, basically, with the Hurricane engine in it. And I took it on a ride up near where I live here in Oregon, on a trail called Cedar Tree, which is a Jeep Badge of Honor trail. It's not an easy trail. And my little M38 made it up to the top of the mountain along with a brand new Wrangler Rubicon and a Wrangler 4xe. And the main difference was I actually had an easier time of it because they were so big that they, you know, had to like really work to get around some of these tight corners and stuff. And my little tiny Jeep, old Jeep, just drives right around the corner. And, you know, they have modern Jeeps, you know, have disconnectable sway bars and electronic locking differentials and, you know, all this stuff. I got nothing. I got open diffs. If one wheel starts spinning, you just ride the brake a little bit and then the other wheels take over.
Well, you got to know how to drive it.
Yeah, you do have to have a little bit of expertise, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're thinking about how fun it would be to have an old Jeep, then I would say, you know, take a good class, and people offer them all over the place, in driving an old unautomatic, you know, locking, blah, 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 blah Jeep. And you'll find that these things are little mountain goats. They will go anywhere, and you will get to the top of the hill just like the guys in the Rubicons do. You know, maybe not over the boulders and stuff, although people do that too. If you look at videos on YouTube from Moab and King of the Hammers and stuff like that, you'll find people doing crazy things with these old flat fender Jeeps. And you know, they do it.
Now, what about these Jeep? And by the way, we're talking to my friend Jeff Zerschmied, who is a man that knows about Jeeps. I mean, the guy's been around Jeeps all his life, and he knows about it. That's why we're talking to him today, Memorial Day weekend. I ran across a YouTube thing about the Filipino plant that is building Jeeps. Have you seen that?
Oh, they build them all over. There are Korean Jeeps. There are Filipino Jeeps. Even our wonderful friends, the Italians, have an Alfa Romeo that looked like it. I mean, it'll stop you in your tracks. I was in Italy. I came around the corner and I'm like, oh my God. And, you know, the viewers don't know me, but two of my great passions in life are Jeeps and Alfa Romeos. And so, you know, there's an Alfa Romeo Jeep, and it looks like a World War II Jeep, but it's got a little, the grill is the little Alfa heart-shaped grill.
Oh man!
Instead of the 7 slats. But yeah, they made them, and Jeep actually licensed. Mitsubishi in Japan makes,
really?
I think to this day, makes a version of the Jeep. I think Mahindra in India and guys in the Philippines, all over the world, they're still making old Jeeps.
Now, would you suggest? I mean, if you wanted to, I don't know what the price is, U.S. Can you buy one of those and bring it into the country, or is that a whole different barrel of pickles?
It's a big barrel of pickles because Jeep, you know, is aggressive about their trademarks in the United States. But I know that I think it might have been Mahindra or it might have been Mitsubishi that brought some in, and they were selling them as, you know, basically off-road vehicles, as, you know, kind of like enhanced side-by-sides. And they got into some trouble with it. I'd have to look it up to see, because I just sort of noticed it in passing. But and with
smarter
the
to spend $10,000 on a used one than it is to go get one that's in a box and try to put it all together in your garage.
I don't know. There's a 25-year rule for importing non-DOT cars. That's how they get the JDM stuff in and all like that. You might be able to bring one in on that rule, but you'd have to buy it in Japan, have it shipped over, and deal with a whole lot of customs hassles.
I'm going to have to wait 25 years to bring my BYD into the country?
Pretty much. And they do a lot. In Europe, everybody knows the Volkswagen thing, right? Crazy boxy thing, right? Well, they made those for the German army and lots of other armies in Europe bought them too in the early 70s. So you can find these olive drab Jeep things over there still and buy them and bring them, or not Jeep things, VW things over there. And they serve the same function as the Jeep, only they weren't four-wheel drive.
And they were obviously they were popular here in the 70s when Volkswagen actually sold them. They're still pretty amazing how much money they get for them if you find a 70 something one that's in pretty decent shape or even not so decent shape. It's
they sold them in Mexico into the 80s. They were only here for 2 years, 73 and 74, but then they started them in Mexico, I think in 69 or 70. And they sold them in Mexico into the 80s, early 80s sometime. I have a 72 Mexican market. They called it a Safari down there. But I have a 72 VW Safari, which is a thing made in Mexico. And it's got a few differences from the American model. There's no provision for heat whatsoever.
Well,
so
what do you need Oregon for?
Yeah, right. But they're neat. They're neat. I like them for the same reasons I like Jeeps. They're simple. They go forever. What's not to love?
All right. If there was one Jeep that if somebody wanted to heard this conversation, said, you know what, these two guys sound like they're having fun with these cars. I think I want to get one to poke my nose into this and maybe get one to fool around with it a little bit to get into the hobby, the sport. And again, I will warn you, this is not a vehicle that you necessarily go and buy if you're going to use it for a daily commuter. I think it's
no, you do not want a daily an old Jeep. And people do, but I wouldn't. I like heat.
Which way you go? What are you looking for?
I'm going to buy exactly what I have. Right now, I have my favorite Jeep in the whole world. It's a 1951 CJ3A. It's tan with red highlights, red wheels. It's got nice modern all-terrain radials on it. If you're tempted to put those old military NDTs, they look, skinny tires, and they look like they have little bites taken out of them.
Yeah.
Those things will scare you at 25 miles an hour. They are really, really not like modern tires.
They're good for show, but not for go.
They look great. You don't want to drive on. So I would just get the Jeep that I already have. I love it. I can walk out and fire it right up and drive it around town. Take it up into the hills, conquer any trail I want. Can't say enough about it. So the one I have, I would recommend somebody who really wants to get into Jeeps, if you want to have something super cool, CJ2A, 3A, and 3B. Those Jeeps are, like I said, $10,000 will get you a really nice one. $3,000 or $4,000 will get you the mechanic special. Early CJ5s they start going up. People want a lot of money for any Jeep that's less than 20 years old.
Yeah.
And also the Jeep probably has the best aftermarket going in the world for any car right now. Volkswagen is famous
They've had it for
their
years.
aftermarket. Yeah, but there are whole companies that make new body tubs. Like you can buy a brand new flat fender body tub. And if you just get the frame, drop that brand new tub, brand new metal, just made on the original dies, and welded together and put on that tub. The engines are not hard to find. Parts are easy to find. There's KaiserWillies.com, Jeepsterman.com, all of these places that have pretty much anything you could possibly need for these Jeeps. There's disc brake conversion kits. There's lift kits. There's spring kits. There's all manner of stuff. You can drop, if you want to get crazy, you could drop V6, V8 engine into them, and people do. I think that's a little more power than you want in something with an 8-inch
Yeah,
wheel.
I was gonna say that you'd rip that. I don't know if you'd want to drive even if you had a 327 or a 283 Chevy in there. It might be a little bit more than you'd want to put in that type of vehicle.
I've ridden in Jeeps where somebody's just dropped like a 70s era V6, like a Ford Cologne 2.8 or something into it, and it'll trip the tires on every shift if you anchor the gas. And that's, I mean, it's just me, but that's a little more power, and you might get into trouble with that. You might have a little bit more go than you have brakes if you're still running 4-wheel drums. And you don't need that much power. When you put it into 4-wheel drive, and 4-low especially, the Go Devil has a ton of torque, and you're multiplying that torque through the transmission, through the transfer case, and those low range gears, and you've got plenty of power for what you're gonna do. You got to remember, it's not a modern Wrangler. It's a little more than an engine on a box, with 4-wheel drive. But you'll get the mystique. I promise you. You get an old Jeep, test drive one, and you will feel the mystique and why we love them so much.
And you'll have people waving at you on the highways. You'll let them go by, and please, if you get one of these old Jeeps, move over to the right, let people go by, let them wave at you, wave back at them, and continue on your merry way, 45 miles an hour, because this is a vehicle that's meant to be enjoyed. When I was a kid, I was a drag racer, 55 Chevys with, you had to have 500 horsepower cranking out of it. And then I got into a Jeep, and I said, well, you don't have to go 90 miles an hour down the street to enjoy something. You can actually just relax and take a nice ride up a mountain and have lunch at the top of the mountain and come back down again and go through a brook or a stream or, and it kind of was one of the first vehicles that woke me up to a lot of the other stuff that was going on in automotive, and that's because it had a big snowplow in front of it,
And you got to budget a little extra time everywhere you go for the people that are going to come up, and I promise you they will, and want to talk to you about your Jeep. They want to know what's under the hood. They want to know what year it is, and all of that. So, and they're all enthusiastic about it. So you kind of get this instant celebrity when you pull up in one of these, especially like next month. There's an outfit called Jeep Jamboree, and they go all over the country, and they put on Jeep trail rides and have these little mini conventions. And I always, when they come to Tillamook, they're based out of the fairgrounds. I always drive my Jeep over. Even if I'm not going on the trail rides, I drive the Jeep over for the opening night dinner, park it out, and all of the people who have modern Jeeps want to come over and check my Jeep out. They are just enchanted with, it's like great grandpa showing up.
It's a fun thing. It's a fun group of people to be involved with. Jeff, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for spending some time with us this morning, man. I appreciate it.
A pleasure. Anytime, Vinnie.
All right, Jeff. You take care of yourself, man. I'll see you soon.
We'll see you, brother.
My good friend Jeff Zerchme, who is just when you knows about cars, all different types of cars, all different types of things that are going on around the cars. All right, time now for one of my favorite segments of this show.
Drive Time Radio.
Not that one, but this one, where we always get a chance to show you something new and different. In 30 years of testing cars, I've found one fact to be true. There is nothing wrong with a little luxury when you're going over the bumps and humps of the off-road world.
Yo, Vinnie, what are you driving this week?
All right, there we go. What a vehicle this is. We were just talking about the minimalism of a Jeep with Jeff just a couple of seconds ago. Well, here's the exact opposite end of the spectrum. This is the beautiful Lexus GX, which is boy, I tell you, when you talk about luxury, when you talk about a vehicle that will take you anywhere you want to go in the lap of luxury, feeling that comfort and style and all of the things that you think about that you want to experience in a luxury vehicle, but you want to do it in a place that's off road. You want to do it in a place that you don't have to give up anything. This is the vehicle that you can do it in. The 2026 Lexus GX. This is the 550.
Now, there are some people.
This is really a vehicle that, from bumper to bumper, talks about luxury, talks about finesse, talks about beauty, and talks about smart engineering. Look at this. And I hate to harp on this thing, but I will, because Lexus really gets what you're doing with these vehicles. They know that you're probably not going to go up to the top of a mountain with this thing. Some may, but they know that you're going to want to put your raft on the roof of your vehicle and blow it up when you get there, or stuff it in the back with the kids and everything. And so they put in this particular package an air compressor so that you can, when you get to where you're going, plug in the air compressor and blow up your raft and go river rafting. It's a vehicle that has great off-road chops, and by that I mean it's going to tow what you want to tow. It's going to take you where you want to go. And the 349 horsepower out of the V6 engine is among the best in the class. I mean, this is a Toyota, and it's heart. So you don't have to worry about, well, is it reliable? Is it this? Is it that? When it comes to the running gear in this vehicle, the driving gear, the engine, the transmission, I think this thing runs the 10-speed, the 10-speed automatic. I think it's the 10 or the 8. No, it's the 10-speed automatic. A great four-wheel drive system. It's got a nice low range. It all goes from switches on the console that you can set this thing up, and this Overtrail, which is this particular model, for as much off-roading as you want to do. Now, a lot of people like me always say, well, people are going to take these things and they're not going to take them off-road. Well, this is one that you can take off-road. This is one that you are going to be able to take wherever you want to go. Take to that place, to that cabin, or that place where you're going to set up a camp for the night, or 2 nights or 3 nights or a week, and have a good time and get off the beaten path. Was redesigned a couple of years ago, so there's been no really major changes. One of the changes that you do see, though, in the 26 is the change in the roof rack. They've changed the design of the roof rack to give you a better design, a more practical roof rack. The GX 550, the Overtrail that we're talking about, and everybody else, this thing goes for about $82,009 is the sticker price. And again, it's going to, it's almost schizophrenia, if you will, because you're going to get that luxury vehicle that you get with a Lexus. You're going to get that Lexus style, that Lexus luxury. And, when we were looking in the different things inside the vehicle, the materials that they use in this thing, the nice touches, like, it has this fine material that they use for the seats, that's not just conditioned because of the coolness and the air conditioning in the seats, but also the type of material that they use that draws the heat from your body and out of the seat. And unfortunately, this particular model that I drove doesn't have the massaging seats, but this, I guess they call it semi-aniline leather upholstery, and the 10-way adjustable front seats really give you everything you could possibly want, except, as I say, if you don't buy the luxury trim, you don't get the massaging seats, but that's okay. I can live without the massaging seats. What I can tell you, though, is that this vehicle, no matter how you want to use it, if you want to use it as a serious off-road vehicle, it'll give you that. If you want to use it as a luxury vehicle to go anywhere you want to go and just get you through the worst weather that you can possibly think of, it will do that for you too. That's the great thing about this particular vehicle. And again, if you are one of those people that part of your gig, part of your idea of a good vacation this year is to get off the highway, get out onto the trail, go as far up the trail as you can go. This will take you about as far as you're going to go. You can go, when you talk about challenging terrain, this particular vehicle is going to get you there. Again, it's V6 turbo, 349 horsepower, a 10-speed automatic. They all of the vehicles come with four-wheel drive. The Overtrail Plus trims have so much different stuff that is conducive to off-road and trail driving that I don't know that you'll use it all in a lifetime. But it's all there. Now, the 550 that I'm driving gives you a nice bit of punch off the line. And it handles nicely off the road. It doesn't feel like a beast. It doesn't feel like, we were talking with Jeff before about the Jeep that, is rough and you bounce up and down. And this doesn't have any of that. This is something that you're going to put your daughter in the front seat and say, here, you drive it, honey. I'm going to, rest my eyes for a little while. So it really has a lot of the different things that you're going to need if you're a serious off-roader. And the one thing that's really cool in this is their suspension system, the anti-roll bars. If you need to get more travel out of your wheels in the front, wheels in the back, you can disconnect them from inside the cabin and you'll get better traction over rough terrain. So really, when it comes down to it, this thing from A to Z is a spectacular off-road vehicle. The 550 will tow up to almost 10,000 pounds. I think it's 9,096 pounds is the towing capacity. And I don't know what the payload capacity is, but the towing capacity is almost 10,000 pounds. Look, you're going to lose a bit on the MPG right now. I think it's 15 city, 21 highway, which is not horrible. I'm going to take it on to the Joe a little later today, and we'll see what it does when we get out onto the Joe. But as I said, all the conveniences, all of the comforts are there, including the big screen. They've gone from Lexus having one of the not so great infotainment systems to one of the best infotainment systems in the business. 14 inches, you get the Mark Levinson surround sound system. And as I said, the driver assistant features are just as good as anybody's out there. And as far as warranty coverage, just let me throw this in there because I want you to know what this is. You get 4 years of 50,000 miles on a limited warranty. The powertrain will give you 6 or 70,000, and they cover complimentary maintenance for 1 year or 10,000 miles. So that's what you get along with the package when you buy one of these. All in all, as I said, we'll have a full review on a future edition of Drive Time with New York Vinnie. That's me. But it is really pound for pound, dollar for dollar. If you want to, move up into that class of Land Rover, of, the different vehicles that are known for going off-road, this is the one that you want to put on your list. You want to take this for a test drive before you sign for anything. And if it didn't have everything else, it has the cool box. You got the cool box as well, which is that box that's in the console, and it keeps your sandwich and your cold drink cold. How much better can you ask for than that? So that's the baby boy. That is the 2026 Lexus GX 550 Overtrail. It is a great vehicle. And if you're in the market for something that's going to take you off-road, and money is not an object, and you want the Toyota reliability, this is where you got to be looking. All right, that's going to pack it in for another edition of Drive Time. Thanks a lot to Jeff Zerschmied for joining us and talking about Jeeps this morning. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, as we always do when you listen to our show. Please join Michael and I on Monday for an edition of Mikey and Vinnie Take on the World. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. I hope you had fun listening to the show. Have a reverent Memorial Day. Please remember those that gave of their lives so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy today, so we can enjoy the America that we have enjoyed in the past, and hope to enjoy again in the future sometime. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch up with you on Monday if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, too. Do something nice for somebody this weekend, okay? All right. See you on Monday on Mikey and Vinnie Take on the World. If the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye now.